Scaling is doing more with what you've got as opposed to growth, which is doing more with more. Let's nail it, scale it, and then get ready for a sale if that's what you want to do, or an exit of some sort. The true definition of scaling, right? Which is what we focus on. Whilst they're getting the outcomes, if it's a rubbish experience in the process, they won't tell you. They'll actually just start looking. And next thing you know, they're gone. They're working with somebody else, or they're buying their product or service from someone else.
Yeah. And it's a really awful feeling when you see that and you go, oh, hang on. But they've gone somewhere that provide exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
And I really failed.
If you want more time, money, freedom, and have a business that's not reliant on you, then you're in the right place. Each week, Mark Creedon, along with some of the very best business minds in the world, will take you through simple, practical steps you can take to create the business you always wanted. From his own practical experience, Mark will show you how to work less, make more, and get the business you always wanted, the one that you deserve. Now here's your host, one of Australia's most sought-after business coaches, Mark Creedon.
Oh, well, welcome to the latest edition. And as always, joining me in the chair is Caroline.
Yes, hello.
Yeah.
Love to cheers.
Yeah, always for you. Hey, Caroline, we were talking the other day about the concept of understanding your customer or your client's experience. And we were saying that it's kind of easy to fall into a trap of thinking that everything's okay because your clients keep paying you or because they're not telling you. But it reminds me of the story that we had with a client a number of years ago. And I said to him, how do you know that the service you're delivering is at the standard that your clients expect? And his answer was, if it wasn't, they'd tell me. And we realized, of course, that that's not the case, that often they'll walk, they'll vote with their feet. And you can be in the position where you think everything's going okay and they're still working with you and paying you, but in the background, they're actually looking for a replacement for your service or product. So what do you think are the sort of the key factors that people need to do in order to make sure they are staying on top of that client experience?
Well, I really believe that you need to get yourself out of your own cocoon and, don't make assumptions on somebody else's outcomes. That we want to make sure that everybody's happy, but if happiness is different for everybody, but if people are getting their wins and they're getting their results, they've got that, not only the experience and the journey of, working with your business and getting the results, but also that ability to be able to go, do you know what? This is great. I'm on track. I'm getting my results and business is good.
So I think for couples in business, there's a little bit of a danger here because what you're talking about is actually going out and getting information
Yes.
from your clients and asking them, hey, how's it going? And because in a service business, if I'm buying a product, they did this research recently in restaurants. They went, okay, what would you prefer? Would you prefer great food and shitty service, or ordinary food, okay food, and great service? And the interesting thing was that more people preferred the ordinary food and great service.
Yeah.
So in a service business, it's more than just the product. It's more than just the thing that somebody's getting. It's also the relationship, but it's the experience that they have.
Definitely. I mean, you go to a really fancy restaurant, you go, oh, that's really lovely. You know that the food's going to be good. It's going to be an expensive restaurant. It's an experience. You're going to have that. But if you one of the most memorable things about that is the experience of going. It's the experience of, getting dressed up. It's the experience of having those little special things that you couldn't make at home and you wouldn't want to make at home because you haven't got hours.
But let's scale that back because whilst I agree with you, you and I went to a little pizza restaurant last night and the pizza was good. It was good.
It was yummy.
Yeah, it was great. But how good was the serving person?
Yeah, she was.
The wait staff?
The waitress was.
She was amazing, right? And she just made you feel comfortable at home. So that's a great service. What I was getting to before around the experience, I think there's a great risk in couples, and you and I could fall into this, that one person in the business will be going, right, okay, well, it's going well because we're getting all these great reviews. Whereas the other person is sort of going, yeah, we are, but what about the reviews we're not getting? Or what about the 2-star reviews that, we can't dismiss them as an outlier?
Yes. You're always going to, hopefully not always, but there'll often be, negative Nellies out there that.
Apologies to anyone named Nellie who's listening.
No, not necessarily not Nellie, she's a darling. No negative Karens. Maybe we should use Karens.
No, let's not use Karen. Negative people.
Negative people who just have such high expectations of the service or the product, whatever it might be. And you need to listen to those, but there'll be some that you really want to pull apart because that's going to be the impact of the return service. Whether you're an engineer or a surveyor, you will have 2-star reviews and 5-star reviews. Those 2-star reviews are thorns, and you need to make sure that they are correct and fair.
Yeah, and that you've actually gone in and looked at it. I mean, I have to say, when I'm looking at a service, a business, if I look at their reviews and there's, 1 or 2 1-star reviews, I tend to just ignore them because they're usually someone who's got an axe to grind, somebody who's bitter and twisted, and I tend to ignore those. If there was a lot of 1-star reviews, I'd be concerned. If there was several 2-star reviews, I'd be concerned. I mean, you and I were looking at Cradle Mountain Lodge the other day, right? One of our favorite places in the world to go to just to decompress, right? And somebody had a 1-star review there because there was no
It's like
TV.
TV.
You go, man, like that's the whole idea.
It's a national park.
The whole idea is to go there and sit by a fire and do whatever you want to do, but not watch goddamn TV. So, you got to sort of ignore those, I guess. But I think it's really important that when you look at things like reviews, that you do actually dig into them and get to understand what's behind the thinking. But it's so much more than just reviews, isn't it? You've got to create opportunities, haven't you?
Yeah. Look at, if you do see the review and it's not a pleasant review, reply, be proactive with that. Don't just, stay in your little shell and go, oh, well, that doesn't matter. Let's look at this really good 5-star one. And let's share this on my socials that I've got a 5-star review. They're awesome. And you should capitalize on them. But it's those little ones that are the little 1% ones that you can make better.
Yeah, I think you've got to dig into those. But the other thing too is, you used a term when we were talking about, when preparing for this episode, you used the concept of you've got to stand in your clients' or your customers' shoes. And I really like that idea because you actually do have to look at it through their eyes. And that's where the experience thing becomes really relevant, because you might deliver the thing, which is the service or product that they're asking for, but have you delivered it in a way that gets them to want to do it again?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you look at and you're super clear on your customer journey, so when somebody signs up with you and they've done their initial contract with you, it's exciting. They're so pumped, and then you sort of get that little lull where there's, oh, have I made the right decision? And then they see some results, and that result sort of starts to bring an emotional journey because they're excited about the future or they're excited about the outcomes. So we just need to make sure that client journey stays consistent
Yep.
in how they're feeling about what you're providing. Hopefully you're providing great service and a good, the correct advice, whatever that might be. But that you always need to recap on that client journey and that emotional element, because people buy people, not necessarily always product.
I think it's a really important point. People buy people, right? And so people buy people they like. I was working with one of our new mastermind members in a game plan session earlier this week, and I said to him, right, here's what you need to do. You need to map out your client journey. I always draw like a stick figure and an arrow showing, this is the journey that the client goes on. And you need to stop because there are steps along the way. So you imagine it that it's like a long corridor with doors either side. And at each door, which is a step in the process of the client journey, whether that client journey all happens over a matter of hours or whether it happens over a matter of days, weeks, or months. But at each of those steps, you've got to stop and go, okay, what is working? What is not? What could go wrong? What is the experience? What is the client feeling right at this point in time? And what do I want them to feel? And you've got to work out where that gap sits then.
Yep.
In addition to looking at reviews, what are some of the things that people could do on a regular basis to actually get some insight into the client experience and whether the clients are actually having a great experience?
Pick up the phone.
Well, yeah, pick up the phone.
I mean, the phone for a lot of people is super heavy, but let's be honest. If someone's paying you a lot of money, a phone call will serve you well.
Phone doesn't weigh 3 ton, right?
No, it doesn't weigh 3 ton, but it's important. And if you're building for example, if you're building a house for somebody, they're on that client journey. They want to know why there's a 2-week wait while you wait for a council approval or something like that. If I'm a client, I don't know. Sorry, if I'm a customer, I don't know that the council takes 2 weeks to get through a whole bunch of my paperwork. I don't necessarily understand that.
Right. I think the addition to that is that the client needs to know before they ask you.
Yep.
Yeah. So they shouldn't have to come chasing you. So it's about being proactive.
Yeah, pick up that phone.
So picking up the phone, being proactive, filling the client in, but just asking them. And we recently had dinner with one, I think a couple of drinks with the other, a couple of clients at the Gold Coast at an intensive, and we took them to one side. We had dinner with them, and we sort of said, look, tell us about your experience in Mastermind. And it wasn't really about, because obviously our biggest concern or our biggest focus in our Mastermind program is how are our clients performing on the areas that they want to perform on. So whether it's getting more time, more money, or more freedom, right? Whether they're scaling the business or whether they're getting to have 2 days a week off or whatever, or they're getting a better relationship at home because they're not always fighting about the business. That's what but this was actually about us. But in terms of about us, it was about tell us what your experience is.
Yeah.
And that was really insightful for us.
It was great because sometimes you forget that, not that you're good at what you do, but sometimes you forget the impact that you're making on people. For one member that I'm thinking about, business was going really well to start with. It was a successful business. He was able to grow that business,
Yep.
to have another office, as well as it still being successful. But the bonus on that, which was the ultimate goal, was that he didn't actually have to rock up every day. He was picking up the kids from school.
Yep.
And what a wonderful, wonderful win.
The true definition of scaling, right? Which is what we focus on. I mean, people talk about growth, but scaling is doing more with what you've got as opposed to growth, which is doing more with more.
Yeah.
And what we sort of say is, well, let's start by doing more with what you've got. Let's find ways that we can actually help you to achieve some of your outcomes with what you've currently got or pretty close to it. So, let's nail it, scale it, and then get ready for a sale if that's what you want to do, or an exit of some sort. And I think but the big part about that is, whilst they're getting the outcomes, if it's a rubbish experience in the process, they won't tell you. They'll actually just start looking. And next thing you know, they're gone.
Yeah.
And they're working with somebody else, or they're buying their product or service from someone else.
Yeah. Yep. And it's a really awful feeling when you see that and you go, oh, hang on. But they've gone somewhere that provide exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
And I really failed.
Yeah, see, it's gut-wrenching when that happens. Why is it gut-wrenching? I think because it's preventable.
Yeah, it's preventable. And I think you put so much into what you do because you love what you do. If you love what you do, you put a lot into it. But when there's cracks and you don't appreciate those cracks enough you don't notice them enough, then,
Because you and I pour our heart and soul into this business and into our clients. And so when those sort of things do happen, it's a bit gut-wrenching, but only ourselves to blame, right?
Totally.
So here's what we sort of were talking about the fact that it's great if your clients are happy with the product or service you're providing, but what about the experience? And Caroline, it's a little bit about the emotion, isn't it? Not just the experience, but how are they feeling?
Very much about how they're feeling.
Yeah.
Very much about how.
And you've got to ask them that.
Yeah, I mean, look at a really good exercise is to do that. And I challenge anybody who's listening today to go out and maybe look at what you think your clients are feeling, and then do the other exercise of going out and actually asking them how they're feeling and how they're feeling about the product you're providing and the results that they're actually achieving.
Yeah, and if it's an ongoing service you're providing, let's ask about how do they feel about the experience they have.
Yeah.
Right. So we spoke about fancy restaurants and cheap restaurants and that sort of thing, but it's actually it's not just about the end. It's not just about the outcome. It's about the experience and how they feel about the experience as well.
Yeah.
And you're only going to find that if you ask them.
Yeah.
You actually got to put yourself out there and, right. So we're talking about, we've got to put and I think it's about putting some systems in place for that, because otherwise life gets in the way and you suddenly go, oh shit, I haven't asked that client how they're feeling for, whatever period of time.
Well, that should be a part of your system. The internal system should include that.
Yeah. So it should include asking questions about how they're performing, how your product or service is serving them, but how they're feeling about the experience that they have by doing business with you.
Yep.
Yeah. So we take our cars to a little service guy not far from here. We both drive Mercedes, but we don't take it to a Mercedes dealership. This guy's a Mercedes specialist. One of the reasons we go there is it's actually a great experience because he's really welcoming when you get there. He's almost excited to see you.
Yes.
And so you just feel so safe and confident and
Yeah. Oh,
Sure.
it's small things. He knows your name, and his wife knows your name,
yeah.
and it always give you details when you're there. Is you don't feel like you're being taken advantage of. I know nothing about cars. I push the button and off I go, and that's probably all I need to know.
Yep.
And that little level of service of the hello and
Yep.
yeah.
So when we're talking about how customers are feeling and around their experience, it's more than just whether they're winning, it's whether they're happy. And it's whether happiness is not just happy with the product or service, as we said, it's actually happiness in the enjoying the experience as well, right? And so you've got to lock that in place. You've got to have a system for doing it, whether it's locked into whether you're using Trello or Monday.com, whether you're creating a dashboard that will do that. If you've asked ChatGPT for a process for how you go about doing that, there's lots of software out there that can help you. Nothing replaces, I think, picking the phone up and having a chat to people, having a one-on-one conversation with them. But here's the thing. Do you think, though, that before you do any of this, before you set up a process, before you have phone calls or use a software or whatever, that you've actually got to let your clients know that you're open to that honest feedback?
I think at the onset, there's things that you should ask your clients, or you should say to your clients, are you happy for me to, ask these questions of you? And also, what is the best way for me to contact you and share the information that I have with you along the journey, and make sure that you're happy with your current journey? If you set that out in your system at the start, then, you've got a good way of making sure that happens.
Yeah. So if we're talking about being in business with your other half, better half, whatever, so if you're a couple in business, we're talking about this is an area where you have to be on the same page.
Definitely.
And this is an area where you have to be open to potentially negative feedback or constructive criticism, as they call it.
Yeah.
Should I hate criticism, whether it's constructive or non-constructive, but you got to be open to it, right?
Definitely. Yep.
But I think the other thing too here is that what if you're in a situation where one partner is really open to constructive feedback and the other one isn't?
Then they need a reality check.
Yeah,
No, that's not fair.
no, but see, what I think there is that if one is and one isn't, then get the one that is to do the heavy lifting on this. So, have a discussion with you. Look, I'm open to the feedback on that. So I'll do the heavy lifting on this. I don't really want to deal with that. So you do the heavy lifting. So you do a trade. You do the heavy lifting on that part of the business and I'll do the heavy lifting on this. I'll go and ask the clients. I'll make the inquiries and I'll get the feedback.
Yeah, I think I agree with that to a point. It shouldn't be left with, the warts shouldn't be left to one person. There needs to be that good balance between communicating what the negative, what the negativity was.
Yep.
That needs to be discussed between the partners, absolutely.
Yep.
And then both parties need to have an impact on that change.
Yep. So I may not like to go and hear things that I'm not doing as well as I should. But if you go and hear it and then we find a way between us that you will then share that with me in a constructive way, which is around how do we find solutions around it, then that's probably a reasonable compromise.
Yeah, I think anyone likes to tell their other partner that they've been difficult, don't they? Is that normal? Because you're normally the difficult
I've
one.
never told you that you're difficult. All right, so let's wrap this up. We've got a couple of really good ideas here about you have to find a way that you can check in with your clients to make sure not just they're happy with the service or product, but they're actually happy with the experience, that they're feeling good about doing business with you.
Yeah.
Like when we drop our car off for service, we know it's going to cost us hundreds or thousands of dollars when we pick it up, but we kind of feel good about doing it.
Yep.
Yeah, because it's a great experience. You had a little bit of a challenge. You had a little bit of a share concept that you were going to put out to the listeners.
Well, ask yourself what you think your clients are feeling through their journey doing business with you, but then also go and ask your clients what their experiences are, what journey they think they're on, and what they are experiencing during that journey. And let's have a look at what that is, and hopefully they both align.
And have a system for doing this on a regular basis, right? You're going out, you're getting feedback. Don't just get the feedback and put it into a cupboard or a drawer or a file on your laptop or whatever. Get the feedback, and then the next thing is the fortune's always in the follow through, right? So you got to go, I've got this feedback. What are we going to do about it? And is this an isolated thing? Let's go and talk to somebody else and see if they're feeling the same way. And, if you hear it once, you start to wonder. If you hear it twice, well, but gosh, if you hear it 3 times, that's a real
Change.
pattern, right? And that's a real alarm bell. And I think the other challenge, Caroline, would be this. If you're listening to this podcast right now and you are in partnership and it's only you listening to the podcast, the challenge is to send this podcast to your business partner, your better half, whoever it might be, and go, hey, what are your thoughts on this? What do you think we should do in the next 7 days? What do you think we should do in the next 7 days that would actually help us to understand how we get better feedback from our clients?
Yeah.
Yeah?
I think it'd actually be really fun to hear the results from that in chat. So yeah,
Yep.
send it through.
And if you're both listening to this, then now choose one method. Choose one method for how you're going to connect in with your clients and find out how they're feeling and implement that as soon as you possibly can. Always a pleasure. It's great fun. These are the sort of things that we teach in our Mastermind Accelerator program, where we help couples in business to actually build a business which is A, less reliant on them, but B, which gives them much higher levels of harmony between the work demands or the business demands and demands in their relationship as well. So if we can help you with that, then metropolemastermind.com.au. Until we see you in the next episode, thank you, Caroline. And please, since we do work with couples, make sure that you spend time with those who matter most.
Wonderful.